Okay, take 3. 618 to Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, laws of the sick person. Even if the patient says, I don't need to eat. And there's a doctor, even if the doctor is not Jewish. And this doctor says, that he has to eat. He's fed, so long as the doctor is a professional. So if the patient says, I need to eat, this is what we mentioned yesterday, I need to eat, even though I know it's Yom Kippur, I still need to eat. We believe him and he's given food. Now, if the patient says, I don't need to eat, but the doctor says he does, so long as it's a professional doctor, even if it's not Jewish, we give him food. Now, even if the doctor doesn't explicitly state that if he doesn't eat, it's dangerous. It's only the doctor says, it's quite possible if he doesn't eat, he's going to get sick. He is fed. Because we are concerned, he might indeed get very sick and then become endangered. And even though there's a doubt, even though the doctor is not saying so explicitly, he's only saying perhaps he might get sick. And the patient is saying, I don't need it. Nonetheless, we still give him food because when it comes to life-saving issues, we go lenient. So even if there's a possibility they might get sick, he might be in danger, we give him food. Now, even though the patient says, I don't need it, his statement, I don't need to eat, is nothing. In the face of making him be stringent, because of what he said. If it's a question of being lenient, then we take his word to be lenient. I need to eat, be lenient, give him food, even if the doctor says he doesn't need to eat. But if he's saying, I don't need to eat, then we ignore what he said and listen to the doctor. Because we only take into consideration what he said if it's a question of being lenient, not if it's a question of being strict. Because the Shem Machmas Teif Hadasu Emerkain, because it's perhaps because of his delirium. He's sick, he's delirious, he thinks he's fine. When in reality the doctor's telling him he needs to eat, so he's not fine. And therefore, he's a Machmas Rev Cholsha, he doesn't even realize how sick he is because of how weak he is. And therefore, if there's ever a doubt when it comes to saving lives, we go lenient. Okay. One doctor says he needs to eat. We're going to go through a bunch of different variations of disputes between doctors. One doctor says he needs to eat. Another doctor says he doesn't need to eat. Okay, so you have 1 against 1. If the patient doesn't say anything, or he says, look, I have no idea. He's given food, because it's an equal doubt, and when in doubt with respect to saving life, we go lenient. So one doctor says eat, one doctor says don't eat, patient's quiet, give him food. But if the patient himself says I don't need, we don't give him food. Because in this case, it's not an equal doubt. One doctor says he doesn't need to eat, another doctor says he does need to eat, and the patient says I don't need to eat. Now before, why do we ignore the words of the patient? Because we assumed that he's delirious from his sickness. But in this case, we cannot say that because there's a doctor that actually agrees with him. So we couldn't say it's just simply delirium, because it's a doctor that's actually backing up his view. That's what he says. Exactly. Because there's actually a doctor that agrees with his opinion that he doesn't need to eat. Therefore, we cannot say that he's simply being delirious and that's why he's saying I don't need to eat. I don't need to eat. There's actually a doctor saying he doesn't need to eat, so it's likely he doesn't need to eat.
You normally follow
Sorry?
You normally follow the patient.
We normally follow the patient. We ignore the patient going leniency because we assume that he's delirious.
Right.
But in this case, he can't be delirious because there's a doctor actually agreeing with him, and therefore, if we go with the patient and that one doctor.
Who knows himself best?
Don't you go by the majority in this case?
Majority?
Yeah, it's 2 against 1.
That's not the way the Alter Rebbe frames it. And I assume the reason why he doesn't frame it this way is because we're going to see soon in case where we go against the majority.
When it's 1 against 2.
I know, but that's not the way he says it. He doesn't say here we're going in with the majority. He's saying that we're taking the opinion of the. Well, I guess that's why we're taking the opinion of the patient because we don't say he's delirious, and that makes it a majority. Maybe, but we'll see soon that there are cases when there's a majority and we don't follow the majority. We'll see.
You
We saw it in the Gemara. This is coming from the Gemara.
Yeah.
Yes, as we're going to see. Okay, so again, if it's the page, sorry?
Sorry. Seems like the overriding protocol for this is to follow the wishes of the patient if he's in a position.
We follow the wishes of the patient if he's in a position to stay so. For leniency.
Right, for leniency.
For leniency, but if we hear it's even stringency, we're going with his opinion, but only because there's another doctor with him. Right? Okay, we're going to see more scenarios and we'll kind of get a better picture. Dalet, number 4. If the patient doesn't say anything. Or the patient says, I don't know what I need. And there is a doctor which says he needs to eat. And two doctors say he doesn't need to eat. So the patient, his view is, now it's a question of 2 against 1. Because the patient is quiet. One doctor says he needs to eat. 2 doctors says he doesn't need to eat. Ein machlin says he's not given any food. We don't consider the view of one doctor in the face of 2 doctors. Unless if this doctor is renowned for his wisdom and his scholarship beyond the 2 doctors combined. And we do count his words, to give him food, because it's a question of life and death. Okay, so 2 doctors against 1 doctor, patient is silent, we listen to the 2 doctors, unless the 1 doctor is smarter than the other 2. It's all reasonable stuff. Yeah.
I can speak well. He's probably not delirious.
Maybe the delirious is the wrong word. The words that Alter Rebbe uses is he doesn't feel his own sickness, doesn't realize he's too weak, so he's not aware of how sick he is. So I don't know if the word delirious is the right word, because the word Teirav Hadas does sound like does translate as delirious, but the way he describes this Teirav Hadas is that he doesn't feel his own sickness because of how weak he is. But it doesn't necessarily mean that his mind is not working. Sorry?
That's when you have to intervene.
That's right. That's what he's saying here. That's correct. But if there's another doctor saying he doesn't need to eat, then we're going to assume that the patient is not being foolish. He actually knows. Okay. But in this case here, it's 1 doctor against 2 doctors, and the patient is silent.
So if you have a stalemate of doctors,
We're going to go lenient. If it's a stalemate of doctors, we go lenient, as we're going to see. Okay, 5. Aval bat im shnei roif ma'am mishu tzarich lechol. 2 doctors say he must eat. V'afilu me'oim she'ein tzarich, and 100 say he doesn't need to eat. V'afilu gam ha'choylo oimer she'ein tzarich, and here the patient is also siding with the other people. Ma'achil no says he's given food. And that's why I said it's not necessarily a question of always following the patient, and it isn't even a question of necessarily following the majority. Over here you have 101 people saying that he needs to eat, and the 101st person saying he needs to eat is himself. But because you have 2 doctors saying he needs to eat, he is given food. Sorry? Only with the case of 2 against 1 does the majority work. That's it. Sorry? I understand, but over here it's a different story. 100 doctors say he doesn't need to eat, and he himself says I don't need to eat. But 2 doctors say he doesn't need to eat. He's given food. We're going lenient, because that's right. And because once we've hit majority 2 doctors like witnesses, we take their word, even against he himself. As we'll see. Even if the 100 doctors which say he doesn't need to eat, are more professional, and more well known for their scholarship, against these 2 are saying he does have to eat. When it comes to a question of life and death, we don't follow the majority of wisdom, and not against majority of number. Meaning these guys have more wisdom, the 100, and they have more number because 100 doctors. But we don't do that lahachmer to go stringent. Once we have 2 doctors that say he has to eat, and they're professional doctors, even if they're not as smart as the other doctors, but they're still professionals. And there's a witness of 2. These 2 doctors are considered like the wisest of all men. As it's true with respect to the law of witnesses. Where 2 people coming and saying we saw a certain event happen, they are equally believed, Kameya, as if 100 people said they saw a different event. Because this is the way the Torah decided it should be.
This is also what
We saw this in the Gemara as well, yeah. So in other words, so as long as we have two doctors saying that he has to eat, he is given food no matter what anyone else says. Okay, where are we now? Scroll down a second. Okay, Vav. If the doctor is a woman or a non-Jew, he is like any other Jew whose view is accepted for this. Whether it's a question of being lenient, whether it's a question of being stringent, as described above. And she or the non-Jew is believed to negate the view of the ordinary Jewish doctor. As discussed above in the various different variations. In other words, they are treated like a regular doctor with this respect. The reason why the Alter Rebbe says this here is because he just compared it to the law of witnesses. Right? Why is he taking the opinion of 2 doctors against 100 doctors? Because we're relying on the law of witness, where 2 people are believed just like 100 people. One second. Over there, like you just mentioned, it's Xeris it's a decree. Torah decided 2 are believed just as much as 100. Well, Torah also decided that women aren't believed. Or not that they aren't believed. Let me rephrase that. The Torah decided that women aren't accepted as witnesses. Right? The Torah decided that if Moshe and Aaron came to testify, like Moses and his brother Aaron came to testify, we wouldn't believe them. We wouldn't believe them. We don't, even if, technically speaking, we believe their story, but Torah says they can't be legit witnesses because they're brothers, even if they're the most trustworthy people in the world. So if we're following the rules of the Torah's parameters for what is a witness and what isn't the witness, then women doctors wouldn't count and non-Jewish doctors wouldn't count. So therefore the Alter Rebbe says, no. We're only doing this to be lenient. And because we're only doing this to be lenient, we're taking the principle that 2 are counted like 100 to allow this guy to eat. We're borrowing that principle from the law of witnesses, but not that we're taking all the stringencies of witnesses. So we're keeping the leniencies of every doctor plus the leniencies of witnesses, giving the power to 2 doctors to feed this guy, even against the opinion of 100. Clear? Don't know if that's the case. Right, but that's not a question of that's not because of witness. It's because it's logical. That's not a question of that's not a question of taking it from witnesses.
No, that's the point. We're not.
So I'm saying we are only borrowing from witnesses the issue of lenience. That's all I said.
Exactly, leniency.
That's what I said. Okay, Zion. If the patient says, I don't need to eat, and the doctor says, I'm not sure, if he needs to eat. It's possible, there's no doubt at all, that he will get sick because he stopped eating. He's given food. Because the doctor's in doubt. So there's a double doubt. There's doubt because it's one opinion, it's the opinion of the patient against the opinion of the doctor, and maybe the patient understands his own body, maybe he doesn't, maybe he's not aware enough. One doubt. Doubt number 2 is the doctor himself is in doubt. But because we have even a quarter of a doubt, right, it's 50% chance the patient's right, 50% chance the doctor's right. Now the doctor's opinion is also split in 50 because he's not sure, so it's only a 25% chance. Nonetheless, we take that 25% and we feed him, as he's going to explain.
What about the scenario if a guy is, I have to eat, the guy says I have to eat, and they call the doctors, and one doctor says I don't even know him, I can't say anything, and yet another doctor says, well, let him eat. Is the doctor a sin?
No. It's not a question of whether we let him eat. The question is, does he have to eat? The patient saying let him eat, the doctor saying let him eat, that's not a diagnosis. The doctor has to say he has to eat. Or a doctor says I'm not sure, if he doesn't eat he might get sick. That's the case here. In other words, a doctor saying let him eat is not an opinion. That's just a doctor ignoring Yom Kippur. We need a medical opinion. Does he have to eat or does he not have to eat?
There's no sin involved.
If a doctor saying a medical opinion is not a sin, God forbid. That's not a sin. But I'm saying a doctor saying let him eat is just ignoring the law. The question is a diagnosis. Does he have to or does he not have to? Not ignoring Yom Kippur. Right? Sorry?
Very hard to tell.
Yeah, the doctors are given the knowledge and the capacity and permission by God to come to the best decision they can. And the rest is up to Hashem. Okay, so again, this scenario is the patient is saying, I don't need to, and the doctor is saying, I'm not sure. He may get sick if you don't feed him. So there's a 25% chance that he needs to eat, right? Because 50-50 between the doctor's opinion and his opinion, because he's saying I don't need to eat, and then the doctor's opinion itself is split in 50. Maybe yes, maybe no. Then Machil says give him food. If the doctor said I know for sure that he might get sick, they would give him food, which means his opinion is split between 50-50. Therefore, even now, he's in doubt whether or not he's going to get sick if we don't feed him. He is given food. Because whenever there's a doubt of life and death, we go lenient. Even if there's a number of doubts involved, right? Doubt between his opinion and the patient's opinion, and then his opinion itself is in doubt. It's a double doubt. Nonetheless, we still go lenient. It doesn't have to be an even doubt. Yeah.
We still feed those minimum portions.
Yeah. In all these cases, we feed him minimal portions unless we see that he needs more. But yeah. In other words, if we give him the minimal portion, and then he says, "I need to eat right now again," or I'm in danger, then you give him again, right? But it's correct. Gradually, yes. Ches. Sorry?
Find food in Yom Kippur in his shul.
Most shuls would have something in
Or a
Yom.
kosher restaurant.
No, most shuls would have something on Yom Kippur in the kitchen. I mean, well, we would have, right? You would have. There's water here from the kiddush, or yeah, most would have something for this kind of scenario.
Even if they didn't, I know what character.
For sure. If they needed to, they can shecht an animal on the spot if they needed to. If there's live chicken and the only thing was available was to kill that chicken on the spot and feed it to them, they would do that.
Can't cook.
Sorry?
Who's going to cook?
Anybody, it's a mitzvah. Guy's dying. It's a mitzvah to cook for him.
A rabbi.
It's a mitzvah to cook for somebody who's sick on Yom Kippur. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a famous story of the Alter Rebbe. The Rebbe would quote that he left shul in the middle of Kol Nidre to walk to the edge of town because there's a woman there who just given birth, and he went, chopped wood, made a fire, boiled a boiled soup on Yom Kippur to feed her. For the halachas that we're reading here. Right? Everything's out the window when it comes to saving someone's life. Not out the window, that's the wrong way of phrasing it. The law itself says, please break me so that you can save this guy's life. Right? And that would be the greatest upholding of the law, to save a life in the face of Yom Kippur, even with all the restrictions that are ordinarily there. So, if need be, go to the restaurant, get that food.
Because you have to find a chicken, you have to take all the feathers out, and then cook it complete.
Of course, you do it fast.
Salted.
Yeah, I'm not a professional, but you do as fast as you can. The point you're making is that whatever you need to do, get it done as soon as you possibly can.
Whatever, even if it's non-Jewish house, you get that all year.
For sure, non-kosher food, whatever it is.
Whatever it is. Minimize the time.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do one more halacha. Ches. Aval bat imaroi for omer she'ein tzarech. The doctor says he doesn't need to eat. V'achayla eini yedeya. And the patient says, I don't know. So it's a reverse doubt. In 7, it was the patient said, I don't need to eat, and the doctor said, I don't know. So he took the 25% chance on the doctor. Now it's the reverse. Doctor saying, does not need to eat. Patient says, I'm not sure. Ein machlonoi, so we don't give him any food, and we don't take the 25% chance of his opinion. Why? A patient who says, I don't know, is not a 50-50. It's just him saying, I don't know. Right? When a doctor says, I'm not sure, that means the doctor saying there's a 50% yes, 50% chance no. When a patient says, I don't know, he's just saying, I don't know. It's not a question of 50-50. And proof of this is, majority of patients don't know their own sicknesses. So it's not as if the opinion of the patient is a 50-50 chance. The opinion of the patient who says, when a patient says, I know I need to eat, he knows he needs to eat. Okay. When a patient says, I'm not sure, his not sure is not a 50-50. It's just simply lack of knowledge. Whereas if a doctor saying, I'm not sure, is a 50-50. That's where he's saying, I don't need to eat, in the face of doctor saying he does need to eat. Right? Over here, the doctor is saying,
But the doctor here is saying,
you don't need to eat. The doctor is saying you don't need.
oh, he's saying you don't need.
Doctor saying you don't need. And he's saying, I don't know.
But if the doctor said, I don't know, then we should be lenient.
If the doctor says, I don't know, then there's a 50-50 chance that he might need to eat. Then that was the previous halacha where we take that 25% chance.
Right, okay.
But over here, the doctor's saying you don't need to eat. So 50% of our consideration is saying no. And then there's the patient who says, I don't know. Now this I don't know is ignored. Because it's not as if this I don't know includes 50% 50 chance yes, 50 chance no. That I don't know is just simply lack of knowledge. So it's not as if like the patient is taking a considered opinion. I might get sick, I might not get sick. That's what the doctor's doing. But the patient is just saying, I don't know. Right? So his opinion is ignored. So all we have is a doctor which says, you don't need to eat. Right? And the proof that the patient is unaware is because majority of patients don't know their own sicknesses. So when a patient says, I don't know, it's just simply lack of information. It's not a 50-50 chance. It's not a considered opinion that he's weighing pros and cons. He's just saying, I don't know. If the patient happens to be a doctor. So he is aware of his own opinion. And he knows his own sicknesses. And still says, I don't know. He's not sure if I need to eat in Yom Kippur. Then we do give him food. Because then his opinion is actually a 50-50 chance. So let's do the math, as it were. You have one doctor saying, doesn't need to eat. The patient himself is a doctor saying, I'm not sure, I might need to eat. So we have 25% chance that he needs to eat. Right? Between the two opinions, it's 25% chance he might need to eat, right? Because he's a doctor, and he's saying, I might need to. So we take that 25% and say, give him food. He's given food.
Is he saying, I'm not sure, I might need to eat?
So when a doctor says, I'm not sure,
That means he might
that's
need
right.
to eat.
If he's saying, I'm not sure as a doctor, then that means I might need it.
Okay, that's
As opposed to saying, I don't know, because I'm a patient who doesn't know anything about medicine. He's saying, I know about medicine. I understand I'm sick. I understand my sickness. And, I might need to eat. Then give him the food.
the I don't know. Different.
Because the I don't know is a considered opinion of weighing pros and cons rather than just lack of information, which is most patients. Right? Because so, because had he said, I need to eat, of course we would give him the food. He's a doctor, he's a patient. So to now, when he says, I don't know, he's given food on the doubt, because his doubt is in a considered doubt of 50-50 chance. Okay, so we'll stop over here and we'll continue, God willing, tomorrow, hopefully with the text on the screen.